Shannon here, school corridor, and I want to talk about educator work time because that is what one of our community members have requested, right? So I'm just going to roll on. I have shared this on YouTube as well and on my private page. So it'll be very interesting to see once I watch it recorded whether it worked. Because, like I said, my program is so sophisticated and I'm lagging behind. So I need to teach myself properly. But today's discussion is about educator work time. And I think that's an interesting topic because you know what? I found the WCED policy on educator scheduled working time. And I thought, let us look at the WCED's policy document. One, that you become familiar that there is policy on your work time. Besides our scheduled, as educators, our scheduled working time as stipulated in the Employment of Educators Act, in the PAM document, in all the ELRC resolutions concerning conditions of employment of educators. So the WCED's policy document is in fact just a policy to help clarify any misinterpretations of educator working time. So I'm glad that our community member asked us to discuss it because it made me go on a hunt for, if there's any specific document besides our Employment of Educators Act and, of course, our ELRC resolutions that guide us. So it was very good to find this policy. I don't know. Lovely to have you here. Hi, Miss Naomi. And hi, Isra. Yes, Isra. We, one of these days, are we going to be so connected, eh? Thanks for being in the house. Yeah, so I'm going to start immediately and then I'll greet everybody once I've run through, just some of the key points in the WCED's policy document concerning educator work time. And then if you have specific questions, we can entertain that. And of course, we can greet the community members. So let me get that up here first. Now, hopefully, I'm not going to screw up, guys, because I've got this habit of screwing up big time. Let me open my doc quickly and see what happens. Yep, and there we go. Okay, so this is the educator. Let me see if I can position it in such a way that it's not such a mess on the screen. Yeah, but anyway, that's the WCED policy for the management of work time. Now, this policy is attached to the WCED Circular 50 of 2015, right? There may be a current circular. I didn't see one. I couldn't find one. But this circular 50 of 2015 has no expiry, which means that circular policy is still valid. And then attached to that circular is this WCD policy, that explains the work time of educators. So just take that reference down. You can see it here on the PDF. E5015, that is the reference to the actual circular number. Okay, so here's the WCD policy, and you'll see in the introduction here, the introduction will just explain that the policy is in line with the Employment of Educators Act, that it is based on the Educators Employment Act, that it is in line with all the ELRC resolutions and the PAM document. Right? So this policy is just the WCED's a way of clarifying any misinterpretations of educators who don't understand fully how their work time, their scheduled work time operates. Okay, so you can read that in the introduction, and then of course in section 2 of the policy we get the legal framework, the reference of it there, and you can see the National Education Policy Act is referenced, of course, our Employment of Educators Act is reference, and all those other references over there that are relevant. Then section 3 gives us the definitions. So I think that's critical that you actually look at those definitions, but I'm going to move on. I want to move to section 4 because that speaks directly to the topic of today, and that is what is the prescribed scheduled time for educators, right? What does policy say about it? And how does the WCED help everybody to have a uniform understanding of the scheduled working time for school-based educators? If they speak about institution-based educators, that refers to educators working at all our public schools. Um, and then you will notice that when the reference is made to your working time, it refers to the time that you spend at school. That will be your formal school day, right? And it also refers to after hours work. So your working time includes your normal school day plus after hours work. So you'll see there, it gives you a detailed explanation here. It speaks about all the time during a school term, both inside and outside the formal school day. And it also includes those days that are specified or stipulated for admin days. And I'm thinking specifically of when the new year starts. There are two prescribed um, days at the beginning of the year when teachers have to report to school, and that's also covered over there. And then, of course, you've got a lot of detail there, right? So let's just look at 4.3. 4.3 says that the formal school day must at least be 7 hours. Now, it doesn't say it must be 7 hours. The regulations, the acts all speak about it must be at least 7 hours, which means that the day can be longer than 7 hours. And that explains why you are still on duty if you have to perform school related tasks like attending meetings, staff meetings, department meetings, whether the education department calls you to a meeting. That is in fact covered by that point, that it's the scheduled working time is inclusive of your formal school day, which must be at least 7 days, and it also includes the hours after your normal formal school day has ended. Okay, so you can read the detail over there, and then I'm going to skip this overtime stuff here. I just want to go to number 5, because number 5 gives you more clarity on section 5 there on the formal school day, and there's reference to the ELLC resolution 7 of 98. And in the policy, the WCED does acknowledge that teachers are working far more than the required 1,800 hours per year, right? If a school year is 200 school days and you have to be at school 7 hours, multiply that, you get 1,400 hours. And obviously, you all are working far more. Most of our educators are working far more than the 1,800 hours that we must account for per year. Okay, so that acknowledgement is in this policy document as well. And then number 5.2 just speaks about that if you must work 7 hours a day, that means that you must be able to account for 35 hours that you need to be at school. And if you are working 7 hours every day, then it's 7 times 5. But most schools make adjustments. It is the Friday adjustment. And so obviously that time must be worked in on other days. And that arrangement is usually agreed upon by the district office as well. So if you're at school where that is functioning like that, then obviously that document is a long time on file at the education department. So that is why you probably close at 1 o'clock on a Friday, and then you have to work longer hours from Monday to Thursday. So that is covered in 5.2 in this policy document. And then, of course, number 5.3 just gives you the notional time, the time that you must spend teaching each of our phases and grades. So I'm not going to cover that because it's just outside the scope of what we're talking about today. And then I want to jump straight to number or section 8, right? Because I think this is very important. the core duties of educators. Now, your core duties are spelled out in your job description, and your job description you will find in the Employment of Educators Act. You will find it in the PAM document, and I see there's the PAM document has been amended. So there's the latest copy I see is in September 2022, right? So hopefully, if you want to engage the PAM document, then you download the latest one, which I found very interesting, just as an aside, because the amended PAM document also has the job descriptions of your office-based educators, your circuit managers, the subject advisors, and all that. That's all in the amended PAM document that has been gazetted on September 2022. Okay, so let's just focus on the core duties of educators. There you can see it's expected of all educators to perform core duties both during and outside the formal school day, right? So it's absolutely clear that your work day doesn't end when your school day ends, right? So the formal school day must be at least 7 hours, and the regulations make it very clear that you will have work outside the formal school day. Then those are the duties that educators must perform in 8.1. You can see there that there are 7 core duties right across all post levels. So there's scheduled teaching, and your scheduled teaching will be determined by the percentage that you are supposed to teach, whether you're at post level 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's all spelled out in this document as well, mind you, but it's also in the PAM document, so you can see how much teaching time must be allocated to a post level 1 teacher, post level 2, post level 3, and post level 4. So there must be scheduled teaching. These are your core duties. This is a non-negotiable, right? You must comply with this. So your scheduled teaching. Notice number B, this policy document also speaks about the relief teaching. So if there's absences at your school in terms of your educator staff, then your core duty is in fact to do relief teaching as well. C covers the extra and co-curricular activities. D speaks about pastoral duties. That is also important because sometimes teachers think that is a voluntary exercise that, you can decide if you want to go on playground duty, you can decide if you want to do solitary. These are prescribed core duties of all educators. And then, of course, administration, that we know very well. Number F over there is if you have supervisory and management duties, then that forms part of your core duties. And number G speaks to the professional duties. That is also very interesting, and I think it's good for teachers to know that your professional duties include your meetings that you have, whether you have staff meetings, whether you have department meetings, grade meetings. Those meetings are not voluntary meetings. You can't decide whether you want to attend the meetings. In fact, you have to attend it because it's one of your core duties. I'm sort of emphasizing that because I know a lot of the, sometimes grade heads and departmental heads have problems getting teachers to come to the meetings because they think it's a choice issue, right? And here the policy document specifies clearly that those professional duties include your meetings, right? Include your workshops. I found this especially interesting around the workshops and seminars and conferences, but the workshops especially. Eh? And I'm thinking particularly of departmental heads who who have to ensure that there's always quality teaching and learning taking place, that the learners' results, their performance in their assessment show that they are achieving, and and if the departmental head picks up any problems, any gaps, then that departmental head is obliged by law, according to that departmental head's job description, to devise intervention strategies and do professional development in that particular department, right? So it's a specific need in that department, for example. And so the departmental head is supposed to then organize a workshop to address that specific need. And then all teachers are then expected to attend that upskilling or that workshop that is going to, be training for the educators in that phase, in that grade, in that department. That I'm sort of nagging about this because again, I'm just thinking in terms of subject heads and grade heads, if they want to address particular curriculum gaps, teaching gaps, competencies that they pick up that are lacking, then you can in fact organize a grade specific workshop, and then the educators are compelled to attend those workshops, right? Then, of course, we get to the planning, preparation, and assessment and evaluation. Now, that because that is pretty straightforward. You're always planning your lessons, planning how you're going to do, how your lesson is going to flow, and of course, doing the assessments and the evaluation, doing the assessment tasks, and then marking and everything. Now, this explanatory note given by the WCED in this policy document, I think is very important because it explains the professional duties concept, right? And it says the professional duties, which are mentioned in 8.1 that we just discussed now, are the duties and the meetings outside the scheduled teaching time, right? So this is like after the learners have left, and so of course you're still at school, and so those professional duties will take place there. This is important. The professional duties is outside the teaching time with other educators at the school, right? That's the point I was just mentioning, and the WCED makes it very clear here. And so it is inter and inter school professional duties, which may look like professional development, but it's in fact perhaps addressing a particular shortcoming in the department in terms of the curriculum delivery. Okay, that is very important. And then point two, no, I'm going to skip that one. Outside. So we know during the formal school day, those are the 7 core duties that you must perform. And then outside the formal school day, planning, obviously, preparation and evaluation. Teachers know that very well and are doing it. Extra and co-curricular activities. This is outside the formal day, so everybody is required to participate in the extra and co-curricular activities of the school's program, right? It's not optional. And then, of course, the professional duties. There again, I've just discussed that in a little bit of detail, but the professional duties, for example, when you have staff meetings, or you have governing body meetings or workshops or whatever, as a staff as well, right? So those professional duties, when we speak about the meetings, it can be dedicated meetings that you're having as a grade, a phase, or as a department, and it can also refer to the whole staff having a meeting. And that is what happens outside the 7 hours, right? So, yes, I'm just being the devil's advocate here. So, let's say your school 7 hours end at, say, 3 o'clock or 3:15. And so, when when the principal wants to call a meeting, then the meeting must be shut down at 3:15 because your 7 hours have now been, your 7 hours are done. The policy document and even our legislation make it very clear at least 7 hours, right? And then, of course, your duties, like your professional duties, will extend beyond the 7 hours. So the workshops that you need at the school, those needs-based discussions that you need to have at the school, at staff level or department level, can happen. But of course, the principal will, in consultation with the staff, agree to when these staff meetings will end and when it's going to be longer staff meetings, right? So there's a lot of planning and preparation that must be done. Can't just have the meeting and let the meeting extend to 4:30 without having, informed the staff that that particular meeting will be much longer because these are the agenda items that will be discussed. So there must be consultation, but the consultation doesn't mean that staff members can refuse. Obviously, there must be people, the principal must be reasonable and explain and plan well so that teachers know before the time that the day is going to be extended on that particular day, right? Same with the departmental head. If you want to meet with your departmental head, then those meetings must be placed on the calendar and the time frames must be given so that people know when you're going to have those meetings and how long those meetings are going to be. Again, the explanatory note is given, and I think this is important because this policy document, like I mentioned at the beginning, the WCED issued this policy document because it wants all the schools to act in a uniform way. There mustn't be any misinterpretation. There mustn't be any, people mustn't apply their own interpretations to the document or to the concept of working time, scheduled working time. Here, the WCD is making sure that there's consistency, everybody understands it, and schools will all be understanding the work time uniformly. Okay? Professional duties, I think I've spoken about that. There's the note given there. Now, this is important, and I must say, I didn't know this, that these professional duties, these meetings and workshops that you have at the school that are specific to discuss school related issues, or it's for school related issues, which could be curriculum issues, which could be admin issues, which could be organizational issues. Those professional duties do not form part of the 80 hours. Remember that all educators are expected to do 80 hours of professional development. Now, those professional duties are not seen as part of your 80 hours. That's very interesting. Then, of course, yeah, then we get to point number, that is the explanatory note, Roman 2, and it explains there that the professional development relates to the development of staff in curriculum and school management as part of the normal work responsibilities. That's very interesting. So the professional development that you're going to have is like normal work that you do, not when you are having a workshop because you want to develop you want to discuss and develop and implement a particular intervention strategy. This is just to ensure that everybody's upskilled, everybody's current, everybody knows what is happening. That is also a very important point. Then the last point before I'm going to open it to those who are online is, let's see if I'm sure you can see that. Educator development, again, read through that section. I just want to cherry pick some of the stuff here. Professional development 9.1.1. Professional development as part of the educator's core duties, right? So professional development is prescribed. It's not a choice, right? It's something all educators must do. And then they just explain that you mustn't do it during the scheduled teaching time. And the professional development that you do as a school, because you want to uplift the school, you want to improve the teaching and learning at the school, you want to upskill the leadership in terms of how to manage people and how to do the admin, all those professional development activities, which could also be regarded as professional duties, right? Because you're doing everything in terms of how it relates to your school and in order to help you perform at your best at the school and do things correctly and efficiently and effectively. Okay? Those professional development sessions are not also seen, like I think I mentioned this, part of your 80 hours. The 80 hours in 9.1.2 refers specifically to generic or general um, training that is developed and offered by the WCED, by your employer. So that is where your 80 hours will be covered. So when the subject advisors call for a meeting, or any other official, then those meetings will tap into the 80 hours, right? Um, the the policy does say you can, with the permission of the district director, have some of those professional development sessions that you have at the school, have it seen as part of your 80 hours. Okay. Yeah, that why I think that's important is, because um, it's not a choice in terms of going to going to these professional development sessions that are offered by the WCD and by the officials, and it's not a choice issue in terms of your school. If your SMT picks up that this is a gap at the school and arranges for that professional development at the school, then it is then compulsory for all educators to follow. And of course, there is your school development plan where you would have specified what um, interventions or what training or what upskilling you need, right? And then there's a note, not a note, but section 9.2 deals with skills development. So you have professional development that deals specifically with curriculum enrichment and management enrichment. And then skills development focuses specifically on skills that you would like to acquire or that you would like to sharpen. And those skills can range from computer skills to interpersonal skills, any skill that you would like to develop at the school for of all educators, that will fall under skills development, and the policy is also clear on that must be budgeted for in your school budget, right? And then of course the district also offers a skills development plan. Now let's say you have technology. All teachers must now be they must be digital citizens. They must be able to interact with the internet and with the web and so on. And so if teachers are not equipped, then that would be skills development, and that means that the principal together with the SMT will then target that particular area so that you can upskill people in terms of the technology so that they can add value in the classroom and of course in terms of the general running of the school. Yes, and then of course the district office also, like I said, also has a skills development program, and then teachers can also attend those skills development program. So that is just on the scheduled working time.